So welcome to my review of Marvel's Spider-Man by Insomniac Games, and I want to thank Sony Interactive Canada for sending me my review copy so I could play this game. So there's a lot of hype for this game. It's been building for a long time. People are arguing online. There's a lot of debates. Does it live up to that hype? We're going to get into all of that today, but first I just want to say there is no spoilers in here. No story spoilers at all. I'm not going to show some suits that you can get in the game, a lot of plot points that come out, a lot of reveals. I ain't saying anything about that. I'm just going to show you the first few hours of gameplay, and I'm going to show you the city, and I'm going to try to block off a lot of things as well. I'm not going to show you a lot on purpose because I'm doing you a favor. That's the thing with video games, you want to go in and play it yourself. I'm just here to give you some general impressions. To start with, we'll talk about the graphics. How are they? They're quite good. They're quite impressive. That is for sure. And you can't talk about the graphics without talking about the city that they've created. They've created a mock New York City. And I've been there once, and I was kind of blown away how much they got right. There's Times Square there. There's Central Park. It's a marvel, no pun intended, how much work they put into the aesthetics of the city and the graphics of the city, making a real living city. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later on, but I just want to say that the graphics for the city are amazing. The cars going by, the characters walking by, populating the city look stunning. And that gets into the day and night system, so you can play during the day, you can play at night. There's a weather system, so some days it's raining, some days the sun is shining down, and it looks gorgeous through the city. And I would sit there at the top of the city as Spider-Man and just kind of pan around and marvel, because anywhere that you can see in the city, you can go to. So you can just swing on down, jump down, you're right in the middle of the city. It's really, really nice. But we're still talking about graphics. Is that Spider-Man, just for his model alone, looks awesome. And all of the characters look awesome that you interact with. The cinematics are really, really well done. There's no graphical thing that I was like, oh my god, that looks terrible, or oh geez, that could have been done better. I know there's been a lot of debate online about Puddlegate, where they showed some early shots back at E3 of what the game was like, and then some people took some screenshots now of what it looked like. And I can't do that comparison of that exact shot. By the time that was all going down, I was already past that section in the game. But I went near a puddle, and I was running around it, and I was like, it looks fine. To be honest with you, I was so engaged in the gameplay and the graphics that I'm not even concentrating on things like that. I think they look totally fine. The graphics may have been downgraded at certain times, but I sure didn't notice. Now, to talk about gameplay, we have to talk about how you swing around the city as Spider-Man. They've created a really great Grand Theft Auto style city for you to explore all around, but how is the gameplay? How does it feel to get around the city? It's really, really good. So remember in the old cartoon how Spider-Man would just be shooting up into the air, into clouds and going through the city? That doesn't happen this way, thank God. You are always connecting to buildings or scaffolding or some object. You're not just shooting in the air, grappling onto that. And you do that by hitting the right 2 button. You'll swing and you can let it go, and you do another web shot onto the next building, and you keep on going. You can boost off that with your X button, and you can also get a little bit higher with the right stick. So I must admit, I bet they spent a lot of time just devising how you're going to get around the city, because you will be doing this a lot. You swing around the city all of the time. That's the main gameplay, and it feels really excellent. And you can run up buildings. You can run up buildings super fast, and you can also use your web to boost yourself running up those buildings even faster. So when you are going through the city, you will hit into buildings by accident sometimes, and you can just run across them, hit your X button, and keep on going through the city. There's a really great flow in traversing the city. And just to state here is that you can always follow the main story that's going on by going to the yellow icon. That's always active. You can always go there. But I would recommend against that. You should always explore the city, and they've created a huge city for you to explore. There's so many things that you will unlock. You will go to certain towers and unlock all of the city, and all of the icons and tokens, and there's a lot of places to go. That's important. Why explore the city though? What's the point? Where you can go to certain sections on the map and find certain items that will upgrade Spider-Man and his suits, his gadgets, and his items, and that is the main thing. You can also, as I say, go through the story, just get experience through that, and you'll gain levels for your main character, and you can upgrade your attributes and other skills as well. So yes, there's all these icons on the map that you can go to at any single time, and as you go through the story, different side missions unlock, so you can also go do those as well. There's a lot of customization, there's a lot that you can unlock. There's 25 unique Spider-Man suits that you can unlock, and there's some really cool ones in there. I'm not showing any of them because I want them to be a surprise. They were a real surprise to me. And there's also 3 difficulties to the game. Next, we get to my favorite bit in the entire Spider-Man game, and that is combat. Combat is incredible in this game. It is so satisfying. It's amazing. So you'll be swinging through the city. You'll see a crime in progress. You can go to it or not go to it. But if you do, as I say, you gain experience and you gain other tokens as well that you can use to upgrade things. But so you go down there and there's a whole bunch of bad guys, you know, robbing a store or holding up people or shooting up the city. And you just jump right in and you start kicking the crap out of them. And you have so many moves that it's going to be kind of difficult for me to explain all of this stuff. But you can do combos where you knock somebody into the air and just kick the crap out of them there. You can use your web slingers just to shoot them and stick them against buildings. Or you can use them to grab them, haul them towards yourself, then beat the hell out of them. There's a lot to do here. And you can also bounce off walls. But that's not the only way to do things. You can get in there and do the slugfest way, which feels really, really good. Have so much fun doing that. But the real way to do things, pure stealth. And that's one thing that they've really captured with Spider-Man is he'll land, perch, and you can just look over a ledge, see somebody, and just web them, bring them up silently. And that feels really good. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. There's a lot of ways to interact with your environment. You can grab certain things in the city, swing them around, and throw them at your enemies. Your enemies may throw grenades at you. You can grab those grenades, swing them around, and throw them back at them. You will not be bored of combat. I was never, ever bored of combat from the very beginning of the game to the very end. And there's some challenge here, let me say. There's some waves of enemies where you'd be fighting up to 5 waves of enemies where 10 guys are coming out at a time. And you're like, you get to the 3rd wave and you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I can take it anymore. And that is some of the fun there. It's very challenging. And sometimes you will absolutely just die. And you're like, oh, what the hell did I do? It will always be on you though. I was getting mad. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting so frustrated. And I'm like, wait a second, why don't I use this technique and this technique? And there's a lot of gadgets you can use within combat as well. So I started to use those and I'm like, oh my God, this is so much fun. I totally get it now. As a feeling of accomplishment, you know, succeeding in some of those things. Sometimes it gets pretty crazy fighting against some boss encounters where you're fighting 2 bosses at once. I won't even get into that. That's spoiler territory. But that's very fulfilling as well. Okay, let's talk about the story without talking about the story. How is the story? Where I think the story really gets someplace, but it takes a little bit to get there. I think the first 10 hours, it was a little slow for me. You're just kind of going through the story and things are happening. You're meeting people, you're talking to people, you're getting to know a lot of people. They're doing that setup phase, so I'm not against it in that way. I just was like waiting for a little bit more exciting reveals, and there's a couple, but there's some really big reveals later on, and there's some shocking moments as well, and those are good. When the story finally gets there, it's great, but honestly, you're kind of just going through the story, doing all the action bits and all that, and the story is just a side thing, realistically. So I wasn't too bothered by that. Music and sound effects, how are those? I want to say the music is good. It's very subtle. It's always in the background. I never noticed it. Only when I was starting the game at the title sequence did I hear that kind of heroic theme kicking in. But while I was playing the game, I was so into, navigating the city onto what I was doing next that the music just kind of, went into the background for me. And I think that's where it should be for this game. And I think it was stylistically designed to do that, to be that way. It's not very in your face. I think when some action's going on, it heats up. It's perfectly parred with what's going on screen, so that's great. The sound effects are really good. It's really funny to jump down into the city as Spider-Man, be running around at any given time, and there's people going, hey, look, it's Spider-Man. Hey, can we get a selfie? And they're doing all that kinds of stuff, and cars are going by. All the sound effects feel really fitting and perfect. So I've talked about a lot that I love with this game. Are there some things that I dislike about the game? There's a few. I have a few nitpicks with it. These are all personal things, and I think a lot of people will play these things and they will enjoy them. There's some puzzle aspects in the game where you have to solve certain puzzles and things like that, and you're doing this quite a lot, actually. It's through the game quite a lot. And I was doing these, and sometimes I'd be really into them, and sometimes I'm like, I just want to get onto the action. I just want to do that. Where I realized that at any point you can skip the puzzles, so the puzzle will solve itself. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So that negative became a bit of a positive later on. I was like, okay, I can just get through the puzzle if I don't want to do it personally. What are some other things that can maybe slow the game down for me, where you can use other characters in the game? And I'm not going to say who they are or when you use them, but you'll control other characters through some action sequences. How were those? I kind of thought, I understand why they did them, to give you another aspect of the story from different points of view. But realistically, I always just wanted to play as Spider-Man. I just wanted to go and beat the hell out of thugs and web people up, and that was about it. But those things kind of slowed it down for me, but they weren't too bad. My other kind of small complaint is the menu system. There's so much to the menu system at first. You're like, what the hell is all this stuff? Granted, after a while, you will definitely understand everything. You will get there. You'll understand it all. But when you're first looking at it all, you're like, what the hell is all this? I guess I wish they made it a little bit more simplified. They didn't need so many tabs for so many different abilities and so many different items and so many different attributes. There is so much going on here. You'll know when you actually start playing the game. One of the strange things that did happen for me, the game crashed twice. When I was trying to do a side mission, I picked the side mission twice, and I got to a certain point, and it would just, boom, knock me out. I took a screenshot of it as it happened. But there is a patch. I did hear there is going to be a patch for the very first day that will fix a couple of bugs. To be honest with you, I didn't notice any bugs in the game or any problems. They were just like a random crash, which was really unusual. I only had it twice in that one mission. I never had it again. So now that I come to the end of the review, how did I enjoy the game overall? I gotta say, overall, I really enjoyed the game quite a lot. I gotta talk about the story length and how that affects this review in that regard. The story, for me, from adding it up, I think it was about 20 to 25 hours. I had to reduce some bits to get them right. So that's like, you'll think, oh, that's very short. That's just the story. Never mind the city and all of the upgrading and all the places you can go. And there's hundreds of places you can go to get certain tokens and to do certain side missions to unlock more suits and more abilities with your main character. So there's a lot to do here. You can spend, I think realistically, 40 to 50 hours maybe getting everything. And that's getting everything. That's off the top of my head, looking at the map and thinking about it. There were certain things, like certain backpacks, I went and grabbed all 55 of those from the city, and that took hours to get all of those. And it depends on what you want out of this experience. Do you just want to do the story? Well, the story is going to take you about 20 to 25 hours. But do you want to explore the city, which I highly recommend. I had to blast through the game just to finish it so I could review it. But I did see the vastness of what you can do in this game. And who is this game for? I think this game is for anybody who enjoys superheroes, and especially Spider-Man. And here's where I get to say my bit about Spider-Man. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I really enjoy it. I grew up in the 80s, and I collected all the old Spider-Mans. These are, the Amazing Spider-Man issue 300, both signed by Todd McFarlane. I met him in person way back in the day. I'm a big fan. Do you feel like Spider-Man when you play this game? Absolutely. You feel the excitement through combat, swinging through the city, the story elements. I think this all comes together as a very, very good Spider-Man game. Does it live up to the hype? Absolutely it does. I think it really does. I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10. I think it really deserves that. There's a few things that took it away from me that may not take it away from you. So anyways, guys, until next time.